Fallout New Vegas has at least 3 unique weapons. Some are variations of pre-existing weapons, while others are their own thing entirely. One of those weapons is a delivery system for a heat ray. Can you beat Fallout New Vegas with only Euclid's Sea Finder? I started things off by naming myself Karen, because I said that I would in the sometimes officially Christian Reddit 2 fan club Discord server, made myself look like a Karen, and started assigning special points. The Sea Finder is unique. It is an energy weapon, but the damage it causes is not affected by any skills. I'll explain more about that later. But because of how the Sea Finder works, and my unwillingness to rely on speech, I evenly spread out my remaining points, picked Barter, Medicine, and Lockpick as my skills, and Claustrophobia and Skilled as my traits. Skilled gives a +5 to all skills, and you'll understand why I chose Claustrophobia later. There's only one place in New Vegas to get Euclid's Sea Finder: Freeside. But you can't just roll up to Freeside like a pimped out giraffe covered in glitter. You have to work for your tool. I did the usual song and dance with Chet and hit the road. My destination was Helios 1, because there are things there that need to be done in order for me to get my target designator. On my way there, I dropped a worthless snow globe on the ground a few times to see if it would break, passed by a memorial for those who died but don't deserve to be remembered, loosely attempted to lure a few dogs into landmines to watch their limbs get dismantled by the shrapnel, and passed through the Blind Deathclaw mating canyon. This is where the one blind Deathclaw in the game was told to go by the other Deathclaws to keep it from being weird around the children. The blind bitch startled me good when it followed me inside the shack. I'm not entirely sure how it got through the door. I just assumed it was some blind magic. I'm also not worried about offending any blind people. It's not like they'll be watching this. 2 more Deathclaws from over yonder ravaged my leather-wrapped body, while the worst humanity had to offer created holes in my body for the Deathclaws to play with. They followed me, the murderers, not the Deathclaws, farther than I thought they would. I tried to lure them to a nearby Legion outpost that didn't work for 2 reasons. 1, it was an NCR outpost, and 2, they were not interested in coming anywhere near the trailer park. Bunch of good-for-nothings they are. The NCR Rangers were also uninterested in going out and attacking the Marauders, which was a shame. I was counting on one of the Rangers dying so I could convince Haggerty that I was an NCR soldier. Equally disappointing was the lack of any NCR uniform inside the outpost itself. Before long, I arrived at Novak. I took this opportunity to have Jeannie May executed by Boone for her crimes against humanity, including, but not limited to, existing. With what I can only assume was brain blood now stained on my pants, I got Barter up to 42, went on an epic adventure with Boone before he disappeared into the nothing, and I approached Helios 1. My speech skill was about halfway too low to let me convince her that I was there to help. Momentarily stumped, I did what anyone in my position would do, and resorted to committing crimes. Specifically, breaking, entering, and possible theft. I say possible because I looked through every hotel room in Novak in search of something that would give my hand the edge it needed to remove Haggerty's body from her head with one swift karate chop, but found nothing. So I just picked the lock on the side of the door and nobody gave a shit. Inside, because I infrequently visit this building, I spent a while looking for where to go. I did manage to find 2 reflector-controlled terminal passwords in my ransacking and monolithing. That's not a word. After speaking to Fantastic, I got the lucky old son quest, ignored other lab coat guy, and went outside to create a GUI interface using Visual Basic to see if I could track an IP address and remotely start the terminals. With both terminals successfully hackified, I entered the Solar Collection Tower, where the real fun could begin. This building is guarded by a bunch of turrets, at least half a dozen Protectrons, and more than 0 Mr. Gutsies, none of which I can do anything about. After getting blasted by so many lasers that my ass was well done, I found the not locked door that let me get into the observation level of Helios 1. Here, I lacked the mental capacity to restart a generator. I probably could have figured it out, but my dad would have given me shit for it because of course I was doing it wrong. If it's not done his way, it's done the wrong way. Fucking jackass. A Poseidon Energy ID card is back inside the collection tower next to a guy who's just taking a nap. He'll wake up soon. I used that card to activate the robot. It was beautiful. I woke it up, it did its task, then died. We should all be so lucky. From there, the only things left to do were redirect the power to the Archimedes 2 weapon system, go up to the observation deck, wait until it's between 9 AM and 3 PM to ensure all the children are at school, and activate the laser. That's it. You're done. Run over. Mission complete. We did it. As luck would have it, I was wrong. I took the short way down, bartered with the cousin of Grandma Sparkles, and headed for the strip. Freeside, same shit, different flavor. Not a whole heck of a heap happened on the way out there. I did steal the Lonesome Drifter's guitar and immediately sell it to a traveling merchant because I thought it would be funny, and I discovered Boulder City to save myself a trip later. In Freeside. At Freeside? One of those sounds weird. I stopped a small child, convinced him to sell me his gun for $20, and I finally got it. Euclid's Sea Finder. This in and of itself is not a weapon. It works with Archimedes 2 to call down a laser of energetic death to wherever your heart desires. Being a futuristic, Nazi-dominated world's version of a Polly Pocket, it has its own set of drawbacks. It can only be fired once per day, and it only works outdoors. That's why I chose the claustrophobia perk. I'm effectively defenseless indoors. That trait boosts all special stats by 1 when outdoors and lowers them when indoors. My first shot fired from the Sea Finder would not happen on Freeside, but at Boulder City. I tricked Monroe into thinking that I would get his hostages out, then called down a beam of light from the sky like Jesus and annihilated every NCR soldier in a 15-mile radius. Sorta. It was closer to 15 inches than 15 miles. Also, waiting 24 hours did not instantly refill my ammo for the toy. This was the first of many issues that would plague this weapon before this game was done with me. In the laser's defense, it did kill quite a few soldiers, and the Great Khans saw the light and began their slaughter. After waiting another 24 hours, I got another Archimedes 2 charge, had a stroke, and thought part of Boulder City was gone. I wasn't completely wrong, talked to Jessup about Benifer, started raising my tag skills, bartered with Mick and or Ralph, and used the Sea Finder on a group of thugs within Freeside. I did this a couple different times, reloading a save every time just so I could get a general feel for the weapon. For reasons I lacked the ability to understand, I sometimes got another Archimedes charge immediately after firing and could fire twice within a 24-hour period. That's not supposed to be able to happen. At the time, I just assumed it had something to do with waiting for more than 24 hours, and that the game was playing catch-up mustard. I don't think that was it, but you'll understand why later. I'll tell you when you're older. I waited once more. Victor interrupted my waiting by knocking the clock down to -1 hours, and because I lacked both the currency requirement and speech skill to get my way inside the strip the way you're supposed to, I called down my beam of light from the sky and fried the Securitrons guarding the gate. Waited, then finished off the rest. I'd hoped that one shot would kill all 5 robots, but that was not the case. My first stop on the strip was the tops, so I could gamble. I lost 500 caps, vowed to never gamble again, and put a mug where it belonged to cool my raging heart. I immediately recouped those 500 caps and had no way of getting the platinum chip from Benny, so I investigated his private quarters, survived the ambush by ignoring the ambush, spoke to Yes Man to get the failsafe started, somehow managed to keep Vulpes from talking to me while I ran from the tops to the Lucky 38. Dropped the snow globe from earlier, and talked to Mr. House about the next stage of our plan. Vulpes was waiting for me outside. I couldn't put that conversation off forever. I had to have it. Vulpes was adopted. His mother is both infertile and imaginary. Before beginning the long march to Cottonwood Cove, I bought myself a suit of combat armor, and for some reason was able to get into the Gunrunner's compound without any of them attacking me. I tested God's might with my light gun and proved how horrendously ineffective it was against heavily armored targets unless you're hitting them directly. I reloaded a save to get my ammo back, snooped around inside the building, returned to those dogs from earlier and fried them all. Waited, took a shot at killing Snuffles, it didn't work, and stopped at Hidden Bunker because one of my quests called for having my rangefinder examined by them. I was stripped naked, fitted with an explosive collar, and sent to do their dirty work. I had a plan though. They can't hate me if they don't even understand what I can. Can what? What the fuck am I saying here? I informed the NCR Ranger that the Brotherhood was nearby. He took off my collar, the Brotherhood revealed that they were eavesdropping worse than an untrusting parent, and killed my boyfriend. It was at that point my plans changed. They must perish. I wanted to bait them into coming outside so I could weld their skin to the inside of their metal armor, but they weren't interested. I'd gotten a key off one of the paladins Dobson killed, so I made sure the Brotherhood 100% hated me. Then I left to head towards 188 Trading Post. There I found Veronica and recruited her to my cause of wiping out everyone she's ever loved. With Veronica hypnotized by my swag, I got inside Hidden Bunker without anyone attacking me. but I also couldn't progress their quest line any further, and the rangefinder objective was completed without it going anywhere. The quest was seemingly finished, yet was still active. That was irrelevant. I had bigger fish to catch. I required 3 keycards, all of which I got relatively easily. First, Elder McNamara, then Head Scribe Taggart, and lastly, Head Paladin Edgar Harden. I guess that explains why he's in a hole. I then blew up the bunker. Unfortunately, Veronica began booping her constituents to death, which gave me experience and is also not a skylight. I sent her back to the Lucky 38, went on with the destruction, escaped the bunker, and the Brotherhood were no more. With that done, I exited the game to consume food. Back in the game, I was ready to head to Red Rock Canyon. The closest location was that ranger station from earlier. Once I got there, a ranger hit squad let me know that I was on their shit list. 4 rangers all next to each other? It's like they were asking to die. I fired and the laser didn't work. It did the spiral thing, beep beep in place, but it never fired the shot. At first, I thought it was some weird glitch that could be fixed by fast traveling or unequipping and re-equipping the weapon. Neither of those things did squat. Exiting the game and relaunching it again did not fix it. Then I thought it might be because the NCR hated me. They control Helios 1, so maybe I can't use that gun with them hating me. So I reloaded an earlier save when they didn't hate me. No dice. By that point, I was also out of ammo. So rather than sleep, and because I was already neck deep in shit, I played with the console commands to speed up the game. It got pretty fast, up to 250 times speed for a bit. 1 real minute is 20 in-game minutes. So at 250 times speed, like 5 billion years are passing every real second. Not only would my weapon, that's supposed to recharge its ammo every day, not recharge ammo, even if it did, the weapon wouldn't work properly. This was a real kick in the dick. I'd read in forums and stuff that the C-Finder is notoriously buggy, which was unfortunate. I was enjoying this playthrough so far, but it became quite clear that I had no options to proceed. So I restarted the game. I went back to Doc Mitchell's house, gave myself a more fitting name, and was in no mood for bullshit. I'd still get Euclid's C-Finder and use it as my only weapon, but I was also playing it as safe as possible by using barter as my crutch skill if the gun broke again. After leaving Doc's house, I shot bottles with Sonny, talked to Ringo about the powder Gengars, got Sonny, Trudy, and Chet to chip in, and waited inside the gas station, hoping that they'd all be dead by the time I went outside. They weren't, but died quickly enough without me intervening. I can't really show it because OBS sometimes does this thing, where it only captures a few frames. Just fucking why? Where it only captures a few frames over the course of a couple minutes. Outside of Goodsprings, I decided it was time for a sex change and became a woman. I passed under Prim and took a path through the mountains to get to the other side of the mountains. Some jokesters with weapons tried to stop me from getting to Novak. I contemplated doing Boone's quest again, but decided after about 11 seconds that I just didn't give enough of a shit about this game to do it again. With speech above 35, I convinced Haggerty that I was with the NCR to get inside Helios 1, and did almost everything like I did last time. The only differences were that I knew where I was going, and I spoke to the other lab coat guy. I also save-scummed my way off the tower. My next stop was Boulder City where, after talking to Jessup, I got barter up to 100 and was off to the strip. Barter was at about 50 by the time I left Doc Mitchell's house, thanks to charisma, intelligence, and luck being at 10, as well as the skilled and good-natured traits, which provide another 15-point boost to barter right off the bat. Inside Freeside, I again convinced the kid to give me his gun, tested it to make sure it worked, and again immediately got a second shot for some ungodly reason. I was a few hundred caps short of passing the credit check, prompting me to visit the Atomic Jeep Wrangler to sell a few things I didn't need. I then did things a bit differently. Because luck was at 10, I decided to get kicked out of a casino. I played the slots at first and won 2,000 caps on like my third pull, but it just took too long. Blackjack with luck at 10 is absurdly broken. It would be more of a challenge to try to lose than win. With 11,000 caps to my name, I used the Black Widow perk to convince Benny to fuck me. We did the thing. Benny didn't know that there was a man inside the mind of the woman he just did stuff with, and I found Yes Man because my only interest here is speed, which was why I again recruited Veronica to get me inside the bunker. The C-Finder got another use on a powder guy. It was a little tricky getting inside the hidden bunker, as Veronica kept punching roaches before I could get inside. Eventually, I just knocked her out with help from the big G in the sky, and woke her up by instantly transporting her unconscious mind to a new dimension where her body was already awake. I met the Elder again, and that quest objective again went nowhere. The Brotherhood were dealt with, Veronica was discharged, and I left the bunker in search of Cottonwood Cove. I exploded several geckos on my way there, found more NCR Rangers that were pussies and wouldn't help a frightened lady being chased by geckos. I wanted to blast them too, but they were never close enough together for them to die in one shot. Cottonwood Cove was boring, the boat ride was boring, talking to Caesar and Benny was boring, upgrading the Securitrons was boring. If you can't tell by now, I lost all enthusiasm for this run when I had to restart. But, thinking about it now, I probably could have just reloaded a save just before leveling up, dumped all my points into barter, and saved myself a bunch of time. That's a shame. If someone had told me that they did what I've done, I'd print it out and put it on the fridge of shame where it belongs. Anyway, I sided with Caesar momentarily, feigning interest in his affairs, letting Benny get crucified, and returned to Good Springs to finish off my recording for the evening. The next afternoon, I was vaguely concerned that the Seafinder might have broken in the night. Thankfully, it didn't. Easy Pete finally died, and I was off to Red Rock Canyon. After sleeping in real life, I managed to regain my vision that I'd lost in my rage-induced delirium that began when the Seafinder broke, and started doing things in New Vegas out of interest in the game, rather than just getting it over with as quickly as possible. My travels in Nightmare Canyon saw me getting stung by a couple cazadors and deciding that all of us dying was better than just them dying. A family of Deathclaws saw me as a tasty treat. I tried to soothe their burning desire for flesh by luring them into a group of raiders at Bonnie Springs. My entire left side got fried in the blast, and the Deathclaws didn't even die. At least not from me. One tripped and stuck its head in the sand. At Red Rock Canyon, I became a glorified Lydia for Diana by agreeing to go find Anders. I knew where he was, at Cottonwood Cove. I cut him down, delivered a package at Crimson Caravan Company, and was sent to Vault 3 to deliver a box of unmentionables to Motor Runner. This did not go smoothly. I chose to not attack the fiends outside the vault until I got them all in a group, and could wipe out most of them and blind the rest with my lightning. I got like 4 of them. Less than half overall, if you look at it scientifically. Then I realized that I hadn't put enough points into speech to get inside the vault without being emotionally assaulted with their physical weaponry. Just like whenever the hell this happened last time, I got a few of the fiends to follow me to where someone had set up a few traps. The idea being that I embrace the pain and let my shins fill with shrapnel while the fiends die from the explosions, dropping a key to the door that I can't open because my lockpick skill isn't high enough. Well, that didn't happen. I found an NCR Ranger hiding out with a broken leg just past the traps. I used my knowledge of band-aids to tell him that his leg no look good. He need go doctor, get fix. In exchange for my help, he gave me a key, which I used to get inside the maintenance area and deliver the goods to Motor Runner. Anders went to the big band-aid in the sky once I got outside the vault. I was done with the great cons, since I couldn't teach Jack about drugs, and I was off to Nellis. I don't know what happened to George. I spammed my way through dialogue and then he exploded. I've probably tried this before, jumping on a rock over the fence to get into the airbase. Didn't work this time. I spoke to Pearl and talked to Jack about some red bitch in Crimson Caravan. This quest would be a nightmare without fast travel. That's what most of it is, going back and forth along with a few speech checks. My repair skill was predictably 1 point short of being able to repair the solar array, because of course it is. So I put that quest on hold, reported back to Mr. House, leveled up, was able to fix the solar arrays, and began working with the NCR, only because I needed to convince the boomers to help me in the coming battle. Couldn't do that yet. Pearl is still Pearl, and Pearl is an asshole. This little boomer rambled on about who knows what. He isn't a boomer, so I can't take him seriously. Loyal told me about a water bird. My vast intellect let me tell Jack that he could superglue a bunch of macaroni together to make a snorkel. I found this shopping cart all alone in the water and thought it would be very cash money to see it get launched into the sky by placing it atop the plane and activating the ballasts underwater. It could not have gone worse than it did. Not only was the shopping cart not soaring through the clouds like I dreamed it would, the fucking Seafinder broke again. Even though I expected it, it really annoyed me. Once Loyal was informed that his bird was now floating, Pearl agreed to help me. I told Crocker what he thought he wanted to hear, and was sent to calm down the Kings, but that would have required effort, so I gave up. And because Freaky McWideface made me uncomfortable. I confirmed what I already knew to be true by waiting in place for several days and not getting any more ammo. I'll spoil the surprise and tell you that the gun never worked again. From here on out, this is a without attacking anything run, which is why I'm gonna breeze through it. Barter can be an acceptable alternative to speech, which has long since been at 100. I wandered around Gamora looking for Kachino, Big Sal, or any other named NPC who could get a questline started. When that didn't work, I started looking for Heck Gunderson's son inside the Ultra Lux. I ran into a blockage that required getting a white glove to sponsor me. Optionally, I could have used the gun Heck gave me to go in guns blazing. Obviously, I couldn't do that, so I left. Mr. House had to be out of the picture. But I didn't kill him. I just disabled his Game Shark to ensure he couldn't cheat at Pokemon anymore. I got some free experience by talking to Caesar a few more times. Yes Man took his place inside the Lucky 38. I ignored President Kimball, installed the thing at the place, and was ready for the second battle of Hoover Dam. With no means of attacking, I ignored all the enemies in my way and took more damage than I would have thought, despite the combat armor I had. Got instructions from Yes Man, flipped the switch, and arrived at the Legate's camp. Barter of 100 can be used to avoid fighting the Legate, which makes this run really depressing. I would have liked to see how difficult it would have been to take down the Legate with only Euclid's C-Finder. I didn't catch this until I was editing the video, but the Legate called me the Man of the West, despite me being a woman. General Oliver was removed from this world by the robots, and I sorta beat New Vegas with only Euclid's C-Finder. This wasn't the way I wanted it to go, but I think the thing is largely broken, and attempting to use it as your only method of attack will just make it fall apart. There are a lot of ways to play through Fallout New Vegas, different weapons to use, different playstyles to try out, and if nothing in the game makes it enough of a challenge, you could use something like a Guitar Hero controller or a flight stick to play the game. But even that doesn't solve the base problem. It's 2020, nobody wants to use their hands anymore. Can you beat Fallout New Vegas with your feet? First things first, if you're in the Rat Movie Discord, there's a chance you already knew this. My big toes are big, like bordering on large. Also, there will be feet in this video, so if you're grossed out by feet, I'd suggest putting on your big boy pants and powering through this video anyway. Going into this, I did about as little prep as I possibly could. Pretty much all I did was make sure I got my feet, the keyboard, mouse, and monitor within the webcam's view. If you were curious, this is what I see. Basically what I see as I'm going through this. I got a second monitor up there. It's actually the primary monitor. Then the game starts, and hell arrives at my doorstep, like one of those weird toenail monsters who sustains itself on your foot fungus. I named myself something appropriate that can easily be spelled using your feet. Spent 30 seconds trying to use the mouse to click on the next button, had my character, and very carefully navigated my way over to the vigor tester. Hitting that right arrow took some finagling, but there wasn't a chance in hell that I could hit those arrow keys to assign my special points, so I used my foot to hit the arrow keys to go back, and the up and down arrow keys to distribute the points. I was not interested in doing anything other than the bare minimum to beat the game. 10 in endurance to take damage, 10 in intelligence to get the most skill points upon leveling up, 10 in luck to boost all skills, and because of the casinos on the strip, and the rest didn't matter. I hit caps lock so I could slowly waddle my way over to the couch to answer Doc Mitchell's questions. Normally, I would spam my way through this as quickly as possible. That's not so easy here, as you have to click the left mouse button to skip dialogue. That sounds easy, but with a big toe the size of a small car, it's easier said than done. Upside is, the arrow keys can navigate the dialogue options, and enter can choose them. Same goes for skills. I knew combat was effectively out of the question. Aiming with a Guitar Hero controller is tough. Aiming with a foot and a mouse is impossible. I went with Barter, Medicine, and Speech as my skills, Good-Natured as my first trait to boost speech, and Skilled to boost all skills. I made my way to Doc Mitchell's front door, made sure not to accidentally activate hardcore mode, and left to explore the Mojave Wasteland. I'll just tell you this now, this was about 150 times harder than playing with a Guitar Hero controller. Sure, with a guitar, your controls are extremely limited. You basically only have like 10 buttons to work with, and some of those have to control movement and looking around. But you can at least have some level of control over what you're doing. Think about it this way. A Guitar Hero controller is making a left turn the way you normally would. Sit at the light, go through when it's clear, whatever. Playing with your feet is like putting on a blindfold before you even know you're turning. wearing earmuffs so you hear nothing, and using your knees to turn whenever you think you should be going left. Are you at an intersection? It doesn't matter, you're going left even if it kills you. The saving grace here is the Q key. Unlike a lot of games, Fallout has an auto-run key. Press it once and you're moving until you stop. Inside Chet's shop, I attempted as best I could to barter with him. Using a scroll wheel with your toe isn't fun. Hitting small buttons isn't fun either. Not being able to put up with this anymore, I settled on buying 7 stim packs and being on my way. I got myself outside, hit that auto-run key, and it was smooth sailing for a bit. You still have to make sure you're going the way you should be, but anyone who's played mini-golf is capable of very slightly nudging a small object to make adjustments to something that an ordinary citizen wouldn't be able to notice. I discovered gene skydiving. I needed all the XP I could get, passed by a few powder gangers, corrected my direction to avoid having to kill those dogs that are in that overturned train car, and arrived at Sloan, where of course I could meet Snuffles and fix his leg. Any doctor worth their weight in styrofoam cups can fix a broken leg with their feet. I'm not a doctor, but I did go to high school with someone who is now a registered nurse, so I think I know a thing or two about medicine. The goal here is the strip, but my immediate objective is getting past the death claws infesting Quarry Junction. Just like in the Guitar Hero controller video, or really any low-level journey through this area, your options for engaging the death claws are practically non-existent. Combat isn't an option when they laugh off everything you throw at them. I immediately went right, knowing that there was a way around the junction. Hitting those little OK boxes was a challenge of its own. I made sure to discover Hidden Valley before ignoring the bark scorpions and getting uncomfortably close to Black Mountain. After Neil interrupted me, I somehow managed to jump my way up this rock and make my way to the cliffside overlooking Quarry Junction, allowing me to get by the death claws without being ripped to shreds. Clear of the death claws, I kept going towards the east as my plan was to stop by Boulder City before heading to the strip. I lacked the caps to pass the credit check at the gate and had no chance at being able to take out an NCR trooper guarding the south wall of Camp McCarran in order to get one of their uniforms and take the monorail into the strip. But I got distracted by thinking ahead when I arrived at 188 Trading Post. I talked to Veronica and got her to accompany me on my sockless adventure. With her by my side, I could easily fast travel back to Hidden Valley and talk to the Brotherhood to be done with their part of the game. Fast traveling isn't fun. You've got to click on the map and drag it around to move it. Doing that with a foot is rather annoying. Thankfully, with Veronica eager to murder innocent creatures, I didn't have to deal with the bark scorpions outside the bunker. She got me inside. I said goodbye to Paladin Ramos. I looked in the right direction, left the bunker, returned to 188 Trading Post by way of Sloan, accidentally activated VATS when I tried to jump over a picnic table, as one does, and headed towards the strip. A solid chunk of this map in this general area is empty desert. The only obstacles in my way were rocks that I had to avoid and a family of bighorners that I let Veronica punch to death while I tried my best to run in circles. I did a sort of squiggly line, didn't get anywhere near a circle, got pretty close to the gunrunners but didn't discover it, and went towards the gunfire. Fiends and the NCR always fight here. I figured that with a shotgun, I could blast away in the general direction of the soldiers. They will get pissed at me, then Veronica could kill them for me. Believe it or not, just shooting in their general direction without accidentally going into third person was a challenge. In an effort to lower my required accuracy from barely anything to impossible to miss, I whipped out a grenade launcher that I'd had since birth and wiped out the NCR troopers. My ability to walk in straight lines, slightly look down, loot bodies, and repair weapons and armor surprised me. The mouse wasn't required here. Everything could be done with a keyboard, and before I knew it, I had myself an NCR uniform and was ready to enter the strip. I leveled up and dumped every point into speech, then chose Swift Learner as my perk. No other perk really seemed all that useful. Turns out, I'm not the New Vegas expert I thinked myself to be, or playing without the use of my fingers threw me off. I'll say it was that. I couldn't remember where the entrance to Camp McCarran was. I took the long way around the Sharecropper Farms, said howdy to the gunrunners, discovered Freeside's East Gate, then figured that if I was out that way, I might as well bite the bullet and take care of the boomers. It was mostly a straight shot there. I'd never taken the train tracks into their territory before. I thought maybe they wouldn't attack me if I went that way. As their shells rained down from the heavens and shredded my delicate little legs to pieces, I knew that I did not got this like I thought I did. The second time around, I killed George to loot his body and reclaim the 427 bottle caps that he had been holding for me, and with stim packs bound to the 7 key, I entered the blast zone. Veronica did not last long. and had it not been for the stim packs, I wouldn't have lasted long either. The artillery shells landing and detonating inches away from your feet doesn't do good things to your legs. Boomer guy spoke to me, Raquel led me to Pearl, I convinced her to welcome me into their community with loving legs. I struggled to bring up the world map and fast travel back to the sharecropper farms, and I began looking for Camp McCarran again. I went back around to where I tricked that NCR soldier into giving me his uniform. The game crashed, and I was back at Nellis. This time I went the opposite direction, and as luck would have it, I found the base in record time. Nobody batted an eye at this guy walking on his feet and wearing a uniform covered in dried blood. I mastered the art of climbing stairs, rode the monorail, failed at entering a door twice, 4 Eyes, wished he could carry guns like I could. I spoke to Victor, and waddled towards my destiny. I chose violence inside the tops, because it would certainly be difficult to annihilate a bunch of men in suits with a grenade launcher at close range. It would also be annoying to have to go all the way to Cottonwood Cove to get the platinum chip from the Salad King. Shot 1 broke my legs. After accidentally hitting the F key a few times, shot 2 broke more limbs. By shot 4, pretty much everyone at the front door was a puddle of corpse on the floor. I shot at nothing, thinking Benny was there but just hadn't rendered. A few more goons came after me and, very stupidly, I pulled out a rifle. Worthless fact, at this exact moment in time, as I write this very sentence, I'm listening to mayonnaise in the Mitten Squad Discord server. I'm not joking about the mayonnaise. It's really happening. And it's really beautiful. I somehow managed to kill one person with a rifle. Then, after most of my health was gone, I got a second person with it. All that remained was Benny. I tried the rifle again, but a lot can change in the span of 9 seconds. My accuracy isn't what it used to be. To his credit, he took the first shot like a champ. Because I skipped Boulder City, killing Benifer leveled me up 3 times. After the 3rd level up, I got speech up to 99. It would have been 100, but my toe slipped and I put a point into medicine, and began the painful process of looting all the bodies by the door and repairing all their stuff. I wasn't going to use any of it. A jack-in-the-box would be more effective with a revolver than I would, but I wanted their valuable items to either send back to their families, along with a note that I killed them, or to send to someone to get caps to buy more medical supplies. Yes Man was next. You didn't think I'd put any effort into this playthrough, did you? Getting through all his dialogue was a chore, and I probably could have saved myself some time by only meeting him after I encountered all the factions I'd need to meet. Oh well. As the saying goes, my feet are made for walking. I checked in on the white gloves since I was in their area. All I had to do here was talk to Mortimer. He rudely explained that someone of my caliber wasn't welcome. He seemed to discriminate against those of us with feet. If I had something other than feet, I'd make him pay for those remarks. Gamora was easy as well. Go inside, refuse to disarm. I don't have arms, I only have feet. Veronica strategically stood in front of me to shield me from the bullets, and I entered the Lucky 38 to finally meet Mr. House who, fun fact, will be born in July of this year. His presentation was one of the worst I've ever seen, almost as bad as my high school speech about why you should go to Chuck E. Cheese for spring break instead of someplace stupid like Mexico or North Dakota. House paid me my 1,000 caps, gave me the chip back, and I betrayed his trust that I just spent the last few minutes building. I'm fairly certain you can use the arrow keys to navigate the terminal, but I didn't. If I'm using this computer with my feet, it only makes sense to use a virtual computer with my hands being controlled by feet. House was cranky after his nap. Something tells me he won't pull that kind of a stunt again. Parents take note on how I handled that situation. Outside, I regained Veronica's companionship, fast-traveled to Crimson Caravan Company, and made my way north, then south, around the edge of the strip towards one of the main roads. I pointed this out as I was playing. The audio was from my computer on the floor recording my feet and the second monitor, so the audio wasn't that great. Nevertheless, I saw the sign. I knew that things looked wrong. Wires were hanging in the air, like a pair of sneakers tossed over a phone line, and part of this building couldn't decide if it wanted to exist or not. Big decisions have big ramifications, as does the inability to make a decision, which can cause all sorts of problems as that in and of itself is a decision. The big metal sculptures were back after reloading the game. Some Neanderthals gave me their bullets to hold in a pretty rude way. I put my stim packs back on the 7 key where they belonged, barely avoided falling to my death, noticed some really weird looking building that was no doubt an illusion, spent almost 20 seconds marking Red Rock Canyon on my map, continued walking in about as straight a path as I could with my toes, and before long, I was in Red Rock Canyon. I didn't talk to anyone there or kill anything. There was no point. I simply got to the center of the canyon and was done. Then I remembered that I still hadn't gotten into the strip the right way, so I had to once again put on my NCR uniform and ride the monorail into the community. Almost everything that needed to be done had been done, and Yes Man was finally ready to join me at the Lucky 38. He's a real gentleman. He stayed in his walled-off closet to watch me sleep in his dead master's bed. For the first time, I actually made the quest I was trying to complete, my active quest, just to make my life a little easier. I contemplated gambling at one of the casinos. What better way to intimidate everyone else at the blackjack table than by holding my cards with my feet? But I was pretty confident that I wouldn't need any of the caps. Yes Man spasmed his way into Mr. House's shell. I got a little close to my favorite sycophant, told him about all the people I didn't care about. He listened to me so well. I let him know that President Kimball could die horrifically. I was shunned by some people who didn't matter, and I was inching ever closer to the end of the line. My last stop was the El Dorado substation to insert an override chip. Veronica was nowhere to be found. The substation is a pretty far distance away from any place I'd ever been. Good news is, I'm pretty great at avoiding confrontation. Not only did nobody on the way to the station want anything to do with me, there was nobody there who could have tried to engage me in conversation. It was heaven. I slammed my feet into the terminal until something happened. None of the soldiers cared all that much, probably because of the uniform I was still wearing. I returned to Camp McCarran one final time to ride the monorail, entered the Lucky 38, found Veronica, and told Yes Man I was ready to take the fight to the Hoover Dam. My plan for the dam was simple: ignore everything at all costs. My NCR uniform let me sneaky my way by all the NCR soldiers at the front of the dam. The Legion soldiers were busy murdering and dealing with the profligates, and I found myself inside the Hoover Dam offices. I installed the override chip, got my final marching orders from Yes Man, and everyone started being mean to me. It was worth it. Being on fire really makes the Pip-Boy look cool. I also went ahead and switched over to my metal armor for more damage resistance. No point in looking like a jackass any longer than I had to. After doing some RNG manipulation, by walking to the wrong door not once, not twice, but 3 times, I found myself at Hoover Dam Power Plant Level 1. My legs bent in ways I never thought possible when I hit that switch. I exited the offices, made an emergency backup save once I was back outside. The Securitrons handled the Legion better than I would have expected, and the game crashed. Again, this was planned. It was all part of the plan. The second time around, the wheelie bots did less damage against the Legion. One even got in my way and very slightly inconvenienced me. In the Legates camp, I put my weapon away to maximize my speed. The Praetorians with their fancy hand-powered weaponry weren't enough to deter me from my mission. I forgot to save before talking to the Legate, so I had to be very careful to not select the wrong option when talking to him. Combat was not an option. I took my time, and with the precision of a surgeon who lost his medical license after being sued for malpractice, I chose the correct box every single time. General Oliver's arrival was loud and obnoxious enough to send shivers down my heel. I convinced him to live to fight another day, ran into the loving legs of Yes Man, and I beat Fallout New Vegas with my feet. One of the best things about the Fallout games is the modding community that continues to support and make new things for the games even a decade after they're released. Some mods are bug fixes or tweaks to make the games run better. Others add in new weapons or replace textures to make the game look nicer. But then there are the monster mods, the mods that are effectively a fan-made DLC. Can you beat Fallout New California without taking any damage? Unlike a DLC, you don't have to start a new character in New Vegas just to get to New California. Start a new game, choose New California, and your journey begins with a surprisingly well put together cutscene showing the Great War, the basics of what a vault is, and a bunch of dead bodies piled up a few feet from the sand. Getting sand out of a backpack is difficult. Getting sand out of the corner of someone's eye to prepare them for their funeral is impossible. More war stuff happened. We're shown glimpses of the game world, just as you would be in Fallout New Vegas, and gameplay begins with a football game. I chose the path of the warrior because I ain't no fucking nerd. I made the noise in-game of breaking something, but I blacked out before I felt anything break. A character was made to fit the image of someone who isn't me, and dialogue begins with a conversation between myself and Coach John Bragg. Bragg yapped on and on about my future, my past, the vault, and he cleverly surmised that I have a high endurance. He's almost right. I've always prided myself on my ability to take half a punch without bursting into tears. The vigor tester looked cool, lots of blues and yellows. I knew next to nothing about this mod, so I wasn't sure what my special stats should look like. I obviously drained endurance and put points into charisma and intelligence to help with leveling up and hopefully avoiding conflict, luck to boost all skills and critical hits, and agility to give a small boost to my ability to handle firearms. I also chose skilled and trigger discipline as my traits. They're always what I fall back on. I named myself Noodle God, as in, like a limp noodle that's a killing machine. This is the second time I've disappointed a coach. The first was in high school when I was so bad at bowling that I wasn't even kicked off the team. The coach just told me that I would never be put in a match, so there wasn't any point to me showing up. He was mad. He kicked me out of his office. Brag, not the bowling coach. He's dead now, and I feel nothing. I took a look through my Pip-Boy to see what I had. A Nerf football and a special helmet. I insinuated that Jen is an idiot, looked through all the trophies that I'll never have, spoke to Mr. Mop, and wandered around Vault 18. This really looks a lot more like a vault than any of the vaults in Fallout New Vegas did. My task was to report to Lieutenant Chevy regarding a security job. Cliches and whatnot. Turns out, she's not only Bragg's sister, she's also got an eye patch. This mod surprised me. Normally, when you see a skill check, it's like a siren calling out to you to click on it because it's the right choice, or we'll skip something and save time. Not here. That charisma check is missing a period, by the way. Choose it like I did, throw in a word that I'd never say because I'm a good Christian boy, and that was it. I was on mop duty for life. To make her pay for her crimes, I threw not one but 2 Nerf footballs at her head. They didn't bother her. I think my fist tickled her, not in the fun way. The next time, I chose what I thought were the right options and got myself a spot in vault security. From her hole, I retrieved a Colt N99 10mm pistol. Back in Bragg's office, I ran through the gambit of dialogue options to get some backstory. Short version is, he's running for overseer, and they're running a drill with the security team tonight to test for their preparedness. I made my way to the lower level apartment. Apparently, I'm the jock, rooming with the board game playing losers. With my pants metaphorically off, I went to bed, rebuilt my character because I'm stupid, reassigned special points as closely as I could to whatever they were the first time. Even now, I can't remember what they were. Upside is, I could reselect my tag skills. I went with speech, guns, and repair. I leveled up twice in the night, raised speech and guns, and watched another cutscene. Brag and Brag are up to no good, to no one's surprise. They're taking over the vault by force. An explosion rocked the vault and knocked me out of my bed so violently that I took damage. The sigh I let out when I saw I had to reassign skill points again and watch that cutscene again could have been heard from 50, maybe even 60 inches away. That was a lie. I didn't have to watch the cutscene again, but there was no way to avoid taking damage. I don't think I need to explain why. There's an explosion while I'm in bed. Moving isn't an option. So I made an executive decision, on par with launching nukes at Britain because it annoys me that they put the letter U in the word color. If I can't get through this without taking damage, I might as well enable God mode to survive the explosion. I've already failed. Any damage is a failure. So at this point it doesn't really matter if it's 1 damage or 100,000 damage. After I got up, I returned to the world of mortals and began assessing the damage done to the vault. My roommates are dead. Anarchy is the new rule of law. All things considered, not bad. Officer Mark told me to pass through the upper apartments to get to the Hydro Dome to meet up with the other Hydro homies. Riot shields are an option, but we know from Modern Warfare 2 how horrible they are. Johnny got and repaired his gun. I found Jen. She ignored me, so I shot her in the face. She shot me back and I didn't take damage. Turns out I'd taken buff out, or something, that boosted my health. After I died, I waited in place for many minutes while I went through withdrawal. Tara Mason was concerned that I wasn't in the opening assault, so I followed her into the atrium where many an Enclave patriot were lying unconscious on the floor with bullet holes all over their bodies. Chevy gave me my orders, but she's a monster. I blew off her head with a shotgun. I gracefully ended the suffering of some poor sap who'd been crucified. This Matheson character did his best mime impression, but his best wasn't good enough. I bashed his skull in with a bat, made my way to the upper apartments, dropped off Jen in an apartment, and lost a considerable amount of progress when I died. Her frail body could be an excellent shield should I be assaulted by an unfriendly swarm of bullets, so I let her stay with me while I picked off more Enclave goons, talked to Norman, helped a dead body on its way to heaven, passed through Dr. Rossman's secret cave, he's kind of a big deal, and got word from Chief Paul Evanson that the remaining Bragg brother is about to storm our position. And what a storm it was. There were a lot of Enclave soldiers. One thing I want to point out is that any frame rate issues you may notice aren't a fault of the recording. The mod itself was pretty choppy at times, specifically in areas with a lot of buildings or in combat-heavy situations. Colonel Bragg bragged his last brag. I looted all the bodies, and only one man remained. Colonel Bragg. That's right, I killed him twice. I honest to God have no idea why that happened. Chief Paul then asked me to check on the Overseer. I'll let you in on a little secret. He's a maniac. He saw that the best way to not lose at Monopoly is to pull a gun on the banker. He activated the vault's self-destruct program. But this banker was raised on the streets. He pulled a bigger gun and removed the Overseer's brain from the rest of his body. It's a real shame that the Overseer killed himself like that. All that was left to do was run for the vault door to escape. The elevator carried me towards the surface, but more explosions erupted from down in the vault, damaging my already exposed and muscular back. This time, because damage is unavoidable, I gave myself a fair 150 health to survive the blast, and this fucking idiot made my day by surrounding himself in a ceremonial circle with dead bodies, then lost all of his cool boy points by telling me that his name isn't Ben, his name is Kurtz. Ignore the fact that his name is Ben Kurtz. Together we ran for the exit and found the vault door. Naturally, I massacred everyone else who was waiting to escape the vault with me. The cavern past the vault door seemed a lot more appropriate than most of the small passageways leading to a vault in most of the caves in Fallout New Vegas. And at long last, we were outside. Some guy who just came from the carnival interrupted my running for my life. Thankfully, I was able to convince him to buzz off. Explosions happened behind me, and I couldn't help but think of how good this area looks. Mod reviewers take notice. This is how you review a mod. Ben and I found shelter in a tunnel. Obviously the safest place to be when an almost nuclear blast is about to ravage the landscape. And, surprise surprise, you take damage from the explosion. Again, this damage can't be avoided. A console command gave me health to survive the dust in my face. I set my health back down to 1, and I fled from the radiation with flat nose. Along the way, we discovered Pine Haven and a new NPC, Kira, a bitch with hair like the void of space. The three of us found Dr. Rossman's house on the mountains. I found a buttload of guns and ammo, stuffed them somewhere safe, dressed myself in the cleanest dirty wasteland clothes I could find, spoke to Kira and Ben, and claimed the only bed for myself. In the night, a band of raiders surrounded the house and were looking for trouble, the board game of course. My options were to open fire on a crowd of people for the 4th time this week, or settle things diplomatic-like. Always the smooth talker, I opted for the option that didn't end in bloodshed. That didn't end well. I got bopped on the nose, fitted with a slave collar, and talked to the store brand Voss. He was trying to compensate for something with that name, L's Dragon. What a nerd. Anyway, he dropped me about 200 feet down into a hole, and I somehow survived the fall, thanks to some really powerful speakers. It's an acoustic net or some shit. Melvin the Voiceless informed me that I was now banished to the darkness. Melvin's a dumbass, and let me convince him to use him and all the other Voiceless as cannon fodder to take on the big one. Inside, Athens Tech, mine level 27, we cleared out a few ghouls. I got to take an up-close look at Festus and examine his raw beauty. I gave a speech, and we marched towards the big one, who is actually a behemoth. They lined up so perfectly as they ran towards their doom. I couldn't resist the urge to kill them all. Then came more, and more, and more, and more, and more, and more. What the Voiceless lacked in usefulness or value to this world, they made up for in numbers. I shot a lot of people. I don't think you quite understand how many people I brutalized. I've said this before and it's always been an exaggeration, but this time I really mean it. I killed an ungodly number of people. Just look at all these bodies. And for every corpse, there was 1,000 more Voiceless ready to take their place. The behemoth was rather tough. He took quite a few bullets to kill. I retrieved the elevator key from his body, and with my infinite army of voiceless men and women, we stormed our way out of the pit towards the sunlight. I also took one last look at all the Voiceless I killed to remind myself of what the others were dying for, which is my amusement. One last guard stood in our path, Mandrake, an invisible nightkin with a gun. He took all my missiles to die, which was unfortunate. I didn't have any missiles left to use on L's Dragon and his men. You'd think that with an army of slaves it wouldn't matter, but it did. It took a couple tries to get through them. What I did was lay down a few time bombs, then attack the guards behind me so that the bombs would strategically go off once the carnage came to town. Quite a few more stood between me and the outside world. My trail carbine, that once belonged to someone who was alive, made quick work of them. Kira informed me that she'd been tortured. The people who tortured her think I'm some sort of a genetic freak. I am, by the way. Just wait till the face reveal. You'll see what I mean. I gave her a hunting rifle and a single bullet, and my band of slaves, armed with shovels, took the fight to those surface-dwelling pricks. Escaping their base was far tougher than I would have thought. See this sort of canyon here? I assumed that this was it. It wasn't. Not by a long shot. Speaking of long shots, Rossman's rifle that I'd gotten back in the vault actually had some ammo. It showed 0 of 0 in my Pip-Boy, but I actually had 25 electro charges. These few guys in particular gave me trouble. It's mostly stuff I've dealt with before, pinned behind an object, and basically having to kill each of the multiple targets in one shot without missing or else I die. And die I did. A lot. Once I got the raiders in the immediate vicinity sent to hell to be annoyed by my dead dogs barking forever, I could take inventory of all the weapons their former life vessels had in store for me. My objective was to escape. That was it. And unfortunately, there's really not a whole lot to talk about. With my guns skill at 100, the marksman rifle, and sneak attack bonuses, I was able to take out most of the raiders in 1 or 2 shots. Most of what I did was move forward, kill all the raiders I could see, move onward, kill raiders. Sometimes I'd die and have to figure out where they were shooting from, but none of it was very troublesome. Time consuming for sure, but that was pretty much it. At one point I noticed a vertibird, and saw that one of my options was to escape via that metal bird. I figured I'd probably need a high science skill, so I ignored it and ventured onward until I eventually made my way out of the mine. I was out of the pot, but the pot itself was in an oven, so now we're facing more direct heat. Does that make sense? Probably. They had outposts or bases pretty much everywhere. This quarter of the map pretty much belonged to El's Dragon and his stupid name. Lot of death, both mine and theirs. I took to the rocky hills to avoid as many bases as I could. Saw a school, I think. No kids to kill. I ignored it. And after 45 minutes of shooting, I was barely halfway to my goal. It was pretty much smooth sailing from this point though. There were groups of raiders patrolling the wasteland. None posed much of a threat. They were about as threatening as a toddler with a toaster. Before long, I found myself at I-15, I-38, Black Bear Junction. A real place that exists. Just take my word for it, don't look it up. Ranger Carey requested my help on a mission. I'll save you some time and tell you now that that mission was a pain in the ass, and it wasn't part of the main quest, so I ran away in many different directions until I didn't get blown up by their mortar fire and eventually arrived at the NCR base. But those sons of bitches wouldn't let me in. Turns out that mission I just ignored had to be done, and it was a real motherfucker of a mission. Here's the situation. There's a raider commander up that hill that needs to be made into a skeleton. There are many multiple raiders, and they have artillery. I'll give it this though. It felt like a full-scale battle. Not like the Hoover Dam where there's like a dozen Legion soldiers atop the dam before you get to the offices. But then it's not really a fair comparison. The raiders here, from what I could tell, were infinitely respawning. So basically what you've got to do is press forward through the infinitely respawning enemies to get through that area, so they'll stop respawning in that area. Then you do it again, and again, and again. As you can imagine, that is not easy when you can't take damage. You could say that it's good because it's free experience and it levels me up. But levels don't really mean anything anymore. Speech is at 100, guns is at 100, repair is at 100, explosive and energy weapons are both getting there. My best weapons can kill most raiders in 1 to 2 shots. Killing for the sake of killing is rude and unproductive. I managed to kill that survivalist commander, that face paint guy from earlier, which got me into a bit of a pickle. A quick save out in the open with multiple people shooting at me and nowhere to go. I got stupid lucky after a dozen or so deaths and got inside the bunker where I could finally destroy the artillery targeting computer, then regroup with NCR Captain Les Jameson. Finally, I could get inside the NCR headquarters, which also felt much more like a base than Camp McCarran did, and meet General Silverman. We talked for a bit. That talk got interrupted by raiders raining down artillery on the base. My body freaked out and tried to hide in the pavement to save itself from the artillery. In response, my brain messed with my perception of reality and allowed me to clip through a door. Then my legs were like, "What the fuck are you guys doing?" and locked me in place while my body continued to spasm uncontrollably. Everybody calmed down once I reloaded the game. Once I got to the front lines, I realized what this was. You guessed it, another instance of infinitely respawning enemies that you have to fight your way through until you kill the big bad guy, and the bullies leave me alone. The first time, this was a cool idea, something you don't really see in Fallout. Second time, it was a little repetitive. Now it's just annoying. A solid chunk of what's being thrown at you are raider slaves, with no armor and only melee weapons, so they die in a single shot, that you probably won't miss unless you forgot to put on your GameStop branded gamer glasses that your grandma got you for Christmas because she knows you liked to play those computer games. With the commander or whatever the fuck dead, I reported back to Silverman, who gave me a new mission, trekking across the wasteland to both restore their power and fix their water situation. Before heading out, I spoke to Senator Paul DeVille, who offered me big money to do things his way instead. I lost interest around the time he opened his mouth for the first time because his voice just annoys me so much.
Yes, if Silverman has his way, but a war isn't what Congress wants. The people need this stalemate to go on just a little bit longer.
I bet this is what most people think when they watch one of my videos for the first time. I also stopped by the gun runners to sell the stuff I didn't need. Some weapons looked cool. They had 1911s and M4s and those sorts of things. The only weapon I bought was an L96A1 because it did more damage than any of the snipers I had. With my weapons assigned to hotkeys and more bullets than you can comprehend hidden in my purse, I set off for the power fixery place. I killed some geckos and a few raiders on the way there. Arrived at the power plant, predictably had to defend the place against a horde of savages who conveniently started their attack right when I got there. The one good thing I'll say about this is that it sounded ominous as fuck with all the savages screaming. The savages themselves were just like raider slaves and weren't in any way a threat. With the power restored, my next stop was across the world to restore power to Union City. That's the NCR headquarters. Some chick in a sand crawler told me I'd better get up to her position because another horde of raiders is about to attack. I didn't even bother fighting. I pretended to be a parent at Chuck E. Cheese and just left her to her own devices. Maybe she lives, maybe she dies, I don't care. About 10 minutes later, I found the California tribe who sent me to their chieftain, Raz Auga. That's his real name. He said the water is a ghost being guarded by spirits and that I had to wake it up. Or I could just haul 90 cases of water across the continent. Thankfully, I saw the potential for manual labor in a vision, and I knew I wasn't going to do it. I put some points into science when I leveled up, and used that power along with a magazine filled with pictures of trees and sexually suggestive poses to turn on the generator and wake up the ghost, which turned out to be a hologram of Dr. Rossman. I used the skills I'd learned during kindergarten show and tell to show him my Pip-Boy from the vault and convince him to help me. He did his see-through magic to get the water working. I took all the credit by cranking the wheel, survived another ambush outside the cave, and returned to General Silverman to let him know my job was done. My next mission was to join Captain Jameson in a quest to take over Fort Dagger Point. Senator Paul bribed me with the prospects of having millions of dollars. I got a Steam key to Daggerfall from some bounty hunter, and I told Jameson that I'd meet him at the fort. Here's the thing about that, I didn't. What happened is I told Jameson I'd meet him at the fort. I just told you that, but I thought you might have forgotten, so I had to say it again. The issue is that my only map marker was Jameson himself, not the fort, and for some reason I couldn't for the life of me find a map for this mod to figure out where to go. At first I thought, alright, I'll just wait for a day. That'll teleport him to the fort and I can head there. Nope. I waited for days and days and days, and when I checked where he was maybe 50 feet outside the gate. I had to follow that fucking prick all the way there, across the entire map, again. My only trick was waiting in 1 hour chunks to make him go a bit forward. It took a solid 30 minutes to get to the fort. There were a couple instances of combat here and there, nothing particularly crazy. There were a few raiders guarding the outside to the fort. Inside the fort were some tough cookies. Multiple sentry bots guarding something. It took an L96A1, guns at 100, and a sneak attack to be able to kill a sentry bot with a single shot. With all the robots cleared out, I checked the weapons lockers and found a Fat Man and mini nukes that I couldn't even use, and Jameson informed me that my companions that I forgot even existed were being volunteered against their will to help move debris out of the tunnel. I had to go it alone. That was a sign that something nefarious was about to happen. The second sign was being told to explore the Fissure of Sorrow. It's probably about as fun as the Pit of Torment or Chambers of Unending Pain. It was a trap. There were mutants there waiting for me. I know that because Vager the Gatekeeper literally told me it was a trap. Then things got weird when he said I'd make a gorgeous addition to their collection. Long story short, he wants to melt my body down, turn it into a milkshake, and dump it all over his naked body. At first, I didn't want to be a milkshake, so I pulled out a missile launcher and blasted them all. Vaegr was probably the toughest thing in the game, taking the impact of multiple high-explosive missiles like they were nothing. Alternatively, you can call down a missile from the sky with your mind to kill him and get launched into a wall, but that does damage, so it's not an option. I spent a while killing him and his fellow mutants behind the overturned trucks. Once he dies, my objective becomes escape Fort Dagger Point. Problem is, mutants and ghouls spawn infinitely in the single path I have out of there. Remember those failed FEV subjects from Vault 87 in Fallout 3? Those are here too, and they're just a delight to look at. They're as pretty as they are tough. Soon it dawned on me that fighting my way out wasn't an option, so I agreed to go with Vaegr on the condition that I'm allowed to say no, but I probably won't because of the implication. Another sign of bad tidings this holiday season was Project Brazil experimental complex in a neon sign on the wall. I got blinded by a white light and woke up in some sort of cell chamber hole. The way he said the Project Brazil parasite inside me allowed me to survive my own mortality made me think that this was the game's way of explaining why I could respawn. Or not, I'm not a big smart. He recognized my superior intellect when I told him I play Roblox, and allowed me to ask questions before my transformation. I had the option to leave, maybe, but I didn't take it. I knew what my destiny was. I've always wanted to drown in thick green goo that melts away my skin and modifies my existence on a molecular level. I dove in headfirst, and the game revealed what happened. It was my body that allowed a new type of mutant to manifest itself and take over the globe for thousands of years. Then, no joke, a giant eyeball flies out into fucking space. That was the dumbest thing I've seen in my life, and I love it.